Sometimes all it takes is one single number to make you question, well, everything. And that's exactly where this explainer starts. With a number so big, it kind of forces you to take a deep, hard look at the entire system of medical education.
11. That's the number. A really accomplished physician dropped it in a conversation, just like that. 11 years. It just sounds unsettlingly long, doesn't it? So, what in the world is it for?
And get this, that's the time needed after you've already finished medical school. We're talking 5 years in general surgery, then 3 more in orthopedics, and then another 3 in spine surgery. And all of that? It's just to begin understanding a problem as complex as scoliosis, not to master it, just to begin.
So that brings us to the big question here, right? The whole reason we're digging into this. If you take a group of really bright students, do you truly need 11 years to get this knowledge into their heads? Is the human body just that insanely complex? Or is the real bottleneck somewhere else? Maybe it's the teachers, the students, or maybe it's the system itself.
Okay, so first things first. Let's give the doctor's argument a fair shake. Because honestly, he makes a really compelling case for why those 11 years aren't just justified, they're absolutely essential.
I mean, just look at this. To even get started, a specialist has to know a dizzying number of interconnected fields. This isn't just one topic, no way. It's the whole shebang. From embryology to the incredibly complex web of nerves and blood vessels, all the way to how one little spinal issue can ripple out and affect your breathing, digestion, or even your reproductive system. It is a truly vast landscape of knowledge.
And he shared this story that just, wow, it really drives the point home. A patient's sexual dysfunction was traced all the way back to scoliosis that was affecting nerves in her pelvic spine. A partial, incredibly delicate surgical correction restored her function. But here's the key. A full correction, he pointed out, would have actually caused her muscles to waste away. It's a perfect example of just how delicate and interconnected the human body really is.
So the big word here is interdependence. You just cannot understand one part of the body in isolation. The physician actually compared it to studying the Talmud, arguing you have to know all of it because all of its parts are fundamentally connected. And honestly, it's a really convincing argument for why so much time is needed.
But what if that's not the only way to look at it? What if we came at this from a completely different angle? This is where our little thought experiment takes a sharp turn, and we start borrowing ideas from a very different but equally complex man-made system. See, the author of our source material, he comes from an engineering background, so he started to wonder if there was another way to frame this whole problem. Could a model from his world maybe help explain this 11-year timeline?
And this is fascinating. He draws a parallel you might not expect, the human body and a nuclear power plant. I know, but think about it. A nuclear plant is also a massive, tightly interconnected system. It's got components at totally different scales and complex controls where just one unexpected interaction can cause a critical failure. The resemblance to the human body is pretty striking, though, as the author notes, the body's natural orchestration is way more harmonious.
This new way of thinking in terms of systems, leads to a pretty provocative theory about medical education itself. What if the real bottleneck isn't the complexity of the human body, but the machine we've actually built to teach people about it?
The author draws on his own experience here. In his former country, he says, the absolute top graduates all went into fields like physics and engineering. Medicine actually had lower admission standards. But in his new country, he saw the total opposite. Medicine is this incredibly competitive field that attracts the brightest minds and gives them this elite social status. This difference is a really crucial piece of the puzzle.
So a theory started to take shape, and it's based on some pretty simple economics. Step 1. You regulate admissions, so the AMA tightly controls the number of students getting in. Step 2. This controlled supply naturally helps determine the price of medical services. And Step 3. To meet all the patient demand with this limited supply of doctors, the system just sort of evolved toward extremely narrow specialization.
And what's the result of that system? Well, here it is. You end up with a huge number of highly trained specialists who each know a great deal about a very, very little slice of the whole. Meanwhile, only a tiny fraction, like that surgeon we met at the start, ever really learns to see the body as one single integrated system.
And this brings us right to the author's bold central claim. He argues that, while a true, deep, systemic understanding might take a lifetime to achieve, the hyper-specialized knowledge that most doctors actually use day to day, well, it just does not require 11 years of training after medical school.
So, where does all this leave us?
Well, the analysis points toward a future for medicine that's a little unsettling, but also potentially transformative.
The great disruptor, of course, is artificial intelligence. And this isn't some sci-fi future we're talking about. It is already happening. AI is starting to change how medicine is practiced, and its impact is set to grow exponentially, threatening the very system we've just described.
The author suggests that even with all the institutional controls, technology is creating its own kind of overproduction. As AI handles more and more of the diagnostic and procedural work, physicians could become more interchangeable. And that, in turn, could lead to incomes declining and the profession's elite social status starting to erode.
And so we come full circle, right back to our central mystery, but now it has a sharp new edge. Is that 11-year journey really about mastering the profound complexity of the human body? Or is it about the time it takes to learn how to fit into a carefully constructed, man-made system? A system that AI is about to radically transform. That is the 11-year question.